Thank you for listening to the Failsafe Moment. Grab a cup of coffee and let's join Rob Statham for another informative discussion helping people learn from things that go wrong.
Welcome, everybody. Second week of March. I wanted to continue talking to you a little bit about why stakeholder meetings are required. Excuse me. My name's Rob Statham. I'm the president of Failsafe-Network. And I shared last time the idea of what we say we do and what really happens to get a job done, that oftentimes there's a gap. And I talked a little bit about the way some people describe it as a black line. That's the way we think we'll do something, and a blue line, the way it's actually done. Well, every time I see that gap, I know it's evidence of latency, because latent causes are what are underlying all of our failures. But people rarely see it. They're almost invisible, actually, unless you're trained to recognize it. Well, the whole purpose of a stakeholder meeting is it brings the right people in the room, which you need to open those lines of communication, but it bans blame, and it requires everybody to look at evidence. To me, they're synonymous: truth and evidence. If you've done a good job collecting evidence, it should be representative of what is true within your organization. You have to fight bias. You have to have a good PI running your investigations, but there's lots of them out there to do that. That's not that hard if you just let the evidence talk to you, so you get people in the room. But then we ban blame, and we require people to see how they contributed for themselves, to identify how they contributed. I need to pause a little bit because I mentioned banning blame. You have to ban blame. And I'm not talking just say that we don't blame. Almost every process out there will say they don't blame, but then they turn around and people don't change. They don't look at themselves and take accountability or responsibility. Blame, honestly, is a great tool to deflect responsibility. The moment I think the problem's outside of me, I quit trying to look for any other reason. I quit trying to understand. The furthest thing from my mind is that I would have to change. Leo Tolstoy said, this quote's been with me now for a couple months. I'm sorry, you've probably heard it on the last 3 or 4 podcasts, but I'm going to say it again. He said, everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves. And that's true. We sit there and see things that are wrong or there are problems, and we always look for reasons and causes and answers outside of ourselves. And that is a problem. I promise you, that's one thing that's unique about latent cause analysis and why we have to ban blame. People do cause problems, but that's okay. We just need to learn from that. We need to own it, if you will, right? Let's just take responsibility for the part we play. It's not intentional. I mean, normal, healthy people don't intentionally do things to cause problems. Now, if there's criminals involved, call the authorities, right? We're talking about learning from things that go wrong at work. So that's why you have to ban blame. And when you get in that room and you ban blame, well, we also then, in a way, we're banning excuses. People have nowhere else to look but at themselves. In fact, when we identify human causes, we're only able to write ourselves up. That a human cause answers who did what wrong, based on evidence, based on the incident we're looking at. And we'll literally only be able to write down ourselves. That's why it's so critical that we get the right people in the room. You don't want an investigative team that's not involved in the incident to be looking and going, oh, well, this person did something wrong, and that person did something wrong, and this person did something wrong. Those people involved have to see how they contributed. If there's a executive that cut the budget and it contributed to this failure, he needs to be in that room. That's the definition of a stakeholder. If they played a part in the incident, they need to be in the room. This isn't any other reason. That's why stakeholder meetings are required, because we want to not have repeat failures. We have to identify latent causes, and people have to see how they play a part. Once you see that you're part of the problem, it changes people. I've watched it time and again. I've seen so many people that are in charge that are desperate to help understand why things went wrong. And the last thing on their mind is that they played a part. I'm remembering a plant manager that called me, and he was the first person I met with to explain what I've already talked to you about. And he said, I know who did what wrong. They just need to see it. And I knew immediately. It's so easy for us to see other people's flaws, mistakes, bad choices, but not our own. And I knew immediately, that's blame, by the way. That's what I picked up on immediately. He's a stakeholder. If he's accusing people of doing things wrong, he needs to be in that meeting, because he has to also look in the mirror based on evidence. And he completely changed. When he went through that stakeholder meeting, he actually saw how he contributed to it. It's never one person's fault. We all come and contribute. It's like we put a drop in a bucket. Well, pretty soon the bucket overflows, and whoever it overflows on, we like to focus on. The problem is we have to back up and go, wait a minute, where did all of this come from? And when you see it, you'll change. And that's what a stakeholder meeting does. That's why it's unique with Failsafe's latent cause analysis process. And that's why they're required. That's not something that's normal to people. It's not our human nature to slow down and look at ourselves based on evidence, to look in a mirror. It's not. I'll be honest with you. We are wired to be great problem solvers. We fix things and we move on. And blame is like throwing fuel on the fire. When I'm able to blame someone, I just fixed a problem. It's not my fault, it's theirs. I can move on to the next problem. So it's not our nature to slow down and go, wait a minute, why did that person do what they did based on evidence? I need to understand this. And then when you identify a latent cause, an organizational latent cause, I'm thinking of one plant that you want to talk about people going through the roof when they heard this, that they said that it's normal to break safe operating limits for the sake of production. And if you would have gone around and asked anyone that before the incident, it's taboo to ever consider that. Yet when they looked at the evidence, it was routine. It was normal. That shocked them. Well, that's great on a corporate level, the we part, right? The way we are. It's not the way we were, it's the way we are. But people have to own up to it. It's the one time everybody does a little bit and they think, well, I have a reason to do it. Of course you have a reason to do it. You wouldn't do it otherwise. And you never thought it was going to contribute to a big problem. That's what always happens. That's why you need a process to put people in a situation where they can, in a very healthy way, where it doesn't hurt people, they can look at evidence. They can look at themselves and they can take responsibility by their choice. It's not an edict. It's not somebody saying you did this wrong and you need to change, because that changes nobody. That may shame people. They may change for a while, but I'm talking about changing inside. I'm talking about really changing to where you wake up tomorrow and you're a different person than you were today. That's what a stakeholder meeting does. And that's why they're so important. It's unique. It's completely unique. I have to tip my hat to the founder of Failsafe, Bob Nelms. He developed this process. He went through the trial and error to get it to where it was the way it works today. And it is fantastic. It's a fantastic process. It changes the way people think in a very healthy way. So that's part two of why stakeholder meetings are required. I hope you have enough interest that you're going to try one. If you need help, I'd be more than happy to talk to you, more than happy to help you. I think we're sitting on a gold mine here, and I would love to share that with you. I think more and more people need to understand this and start operating with a latent cause mentality. I think that will help you take the next step in your company, in your organization, even in your individual job. I'll be honest with you. This has helped me at home incredibly. If my wife were here, she would tell you she loves latent cause analysis, and that's why. Because my problems don't reside outside of me. I begin to look at myself. And the same thing will happen for your organization at work. Till next week, I hope you have a safe week, and we'll talk to you then. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Failsafe Moment. We'd love to hear from you. Share your comments and questions below or contact us through our website, www.failsafe-network.com. Once again, that's www.failsafe-network.com. Until next time, have a great day.